Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down the ideas of the philosopher Osho on a topic that, let's be real, affects every single one of us, the ego. All right, let's dive right in with a pretty wild idea from Osho himself. He actually said that his own life story, totally meaningless. And you might be asking, why would he say that? Well, for him, any biography is it's the story of the ego. It's never the story of the soul, the real you. And that's a super powerful way to frame everything we're about to get into. So this idea of looking past the superficial story of our lives, it gets us right to the heart of his mission. You see, Osho said his whole job wasn't about handing you a new set of beliefs. Nope, it was the complete opposite. He wanted to deprogram you, to basically wipe the slate clean of all the stuff we've been taught, Catholic, communist, whatever, and get back to that clean, innocent state we started with at birth. And that brings us right to the main thing he wanted to tear down, the ego. He didn't see it as a sign of strength at all. For him, it was more like a bandage, trying to cover up a really deep, hidden wound. So what is the ego, really? I mean, we usually think of it as, being arrogant or having a big head, but for Osho, it's way, way deeper than that. So Osho saw the ego as this big defense mechanism. It's basically our reaction to that little voice deep inside, the one that's always whispering, you're not enough or you're worthless. So the ego, it's the mask we put on to hide that feeling of weakness, not just from other people, but, and this is key, from ourselves too. And look, this isn't just something happening inside our own heads. Society is constantly pushing this on us, right from childhood. All these messages, you got to become something. You have to prove yourself, make your mark. It all comes from one core and kind of damaging idea that just being you right now isn't good enough. Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. All our attempts to fix that feeling of not being good enough, by building up our ego, it actually backfires. It creates this endless, vicious cycle, a trap. And to explain this trap, Osho told this really simple but brilliant story, a parable about a sage and a rat. It's the perfect way to see how trying to feel powerful by feeding our ego can, lead to our own downfall. So let me tell you the story. So in this story, you've got this small rat that's terrified of a cat. A kind sage feels sorry for it and turns the rat into a cat. But then the new cat is scared of a dog. So poof, the sage turns it into a cheetah. But then the cheetah is scared of a lion. So one last time, the sage turns it into a powerful lion. Each time the goal was just to help it feel safe. But, and here's the kicker, once the rat became a lion, the king of the jungle, its ego got so huge that it actually tried to attack the sage, the very guy who created him. The sage, seeing this, had no choice but to turn him right back into a tiny rat. It goes to show that on the inside, nothing had really changed at all. It was still just a rat, just in a bigger package. And this story just hits the nail on the head for our modern world, right? I mean, look at someone like Napoleon Bonaparte. He conquered most of Europe, but was supposedly obsessed with cartoons that made fun of his height, even though he wasn't actually short. Or a more modern example, Donald Trump. He becomes the president of the most powerful country on earth, and yet he's reportedly miffed about not winning a Nobel Prize. It just proves the point. The ego is a beast that can never, ever be satisfied. And that's because, as Osho said, the ego lives on one thing, comparison. It's a constant game. You're always looking over your shoulder. You might have more money than someone, but they have more power. You might have more power, but someone else is better looking. It's a never-ending cycle that is basically designed to make sure you never feel complete. Okay, so if feeding the ego is a trap, how the heck do you get out of it? Well, this is where it gets a little tricky, because the answer, according to Osho, is a total paradox. I mean, it sounds easy, doesn't it? Just let it go. But here's the catch. Trying to destroy your ego, that can actually become the biggest ego trip of all. Yeah, it's a classic trap. You start thinking, wow, look at me, I'm so humble, I'm so spiritual and egoless. You start feeling proud of how great you are at not having an ego. And boom, you've just created a brand new sneaky ego, the spiritual ego. It's the same prison, just with different bars. So if you can't fight it, what are you supposed to do? Well, Osho pointed to the path of the Buddha. The goal isn't to go to war with your ego. The goal is to reach a state of nirvana, which literally means nothingness. And that's a huge shift, right? Instead of fighting that empty feeling of being nothing inside, you just accept it. You turn around and look it right in the eye. And the idea is actually pretty simple when you think about it. You stop fighting and you just start watching. You become a witness to your ego's little games. You stop giving it what it wants, the comparisons, the need to be right, the constant striving. And once you cut off its food supply, what happens? It just withers away on its own. Like a house of cards in a light breeze, it just collapses. All right, so let's bring this back down to earth. What does this mean for us in our daily lives? Because this isn't just some dusty old philosophy, right? Let's talk about how this stuff actually works in the real world. And here's the big question that always comes up. If everyone just gives up their ambition, won't the world stop progressing? I mean, if we all drop our egos, does everything just grind to a halt? Well, Osho's answer is that you can actually achieve more. But the way you do it, the whole feeling behind it, completely changes. Your actions start to flow from who you really are. Your work becomes joyful and creative without all that anxiety and competition. Think of it like a river just naturally flowing to the sea instead of a desperate, frantic race to some finish line. And check out this modern example. This guy, Vijita Dahaya, his path is a perfect illustration of this. He starts out with a stable corporate job, then he quits that to become an officer in the government, quits that to be a writer, and then leaves that to become a filmmaker, eventually winning awards for his work. See what's happening? At every step, he let go of a successful identity that society approved of to follow something more real for him. He was shedding skins, one ego after another, and found a much more authentic kind of success. So let's be super clear. This is not about becoming passive or lazy and just doing nothing. It's the opposite. It's about waking up. It's about shifting from this robotic, mechanical way of living where we're just puppets of jealousy and comparison, and moving to a life of real, conscious action. It's about you choosing your own path with your eyes wide open. And that really leaves us with one final and pretty powerful question to think about for ourselves. If you took away all the pressure to be someone, to prove yourself, to build a reputation, to leave your mark, what's left? Who would you actually be? And what would you do just for the absolute joy of doing it?